Let's take a look at the indexes. First of all, looking at this table here for the week, only the Russell 2000 finished with a modest gain, like 2.34 a point or 0.12%. All the other major market indexes actually closed the week with a loss. For the month to date, everybody is still positive, but for the year to date, only the New York Stock Exchange Composite is showing a little bit of a gain. Everybody else is showing a loss. And the biggest loser is the Dow Jones Transportation, followed by the Russell 2000. So if you want to study this table a little bit more, then just pause the video because I won't go through it line by line here. And looking at the S&P 500 sectors, we see that the industrial is actually the top performer for the week. And it's finished the week with a 1.14% gain. And the healthcare is the worst performer with a loss of 4.22%. And month to date, we see that the biggest winner is the industrial, followed by the technology sector. They both a little bit, above 3% or almost 4% gain. So you might want to pause the video and just go and look through this table here. We see that the year to date, we also have the consumer discretionary showing the biggest loss. So let me sort this out here. The consumer discretionary, losing 9.7%, almost 10%. Utility is the biggest gainer so far year to date. Now we're talking about the month to date here. Healthcare is the worst performer, and the industrial is the best performer. And the week to date, for the week, industrial is the best performer, and healthcare is the worst performer. And here, looking at some of the key industry sector, you'll see the USO, the oil, was the top performer for the week, gaining a little bit over 4%. But the biotech is the biggest loser, losing almost 8%. And for the month to date, we see that the processor, the oil processor, basically the energy, is the best performer, followed by the semiconductor. And again, the worst performer month to date is the biotech. Year to date, the miner is the best performer with the oil, energy, biotech, and also the retailer, along with the oil processors and explorer, are the worst performer. So again, you might want to just pause this video and look through the table yourself here if you want to see a little bit more detail. So let's take a look at the chart now, and you see that for the month of May, we're showing a little bit of a gain, not much of a range. It's a little bit of an NR7 type of a candle here. And for the week, we finished printing a sort of a doji spinning top type of indecision candle here. So we'll be looking for the coming week to see which direction it will break on this indecision candle, on the downside and the upside. And we will discuss that a little bit more later on in this video when we analyze the price action for the S&P 500. And here on the daily chart, we see that the S&P 500 basically chopped around for the week and then finished the week almost unchanged here. We're still targeting this area here on the upside, which is that 5,800 area. And for the Dow Jones Industrial, it's also did almost same as the S&P 500, finished the week almost unchanged. And for the New York Stock Exchange Composite, you see that it's coming up and tagged the 30-week moving average here. So it show a little bit of a strength. It spiked up. So we'll see, will it continue to move up and take out some of these levels up here at the 19,000 area, 19,800 area. And here's the Nasdaq 100. We see that it also tried to come up to this pivot low level here, somewhere around the 20,300. Again, we're going to talk about this price action in a little bit more detail later on. And here's the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000 is, we're looking forward to see will it be able to come back up to this 2110 area here. And the Dow Jones Transportation is still lagging all the other major market indexes. It's still down here. It's hovering around near this 14,244. So we need to see if we'll be able to get above here and come up to this 15,000 level. Now let's take a look at the sentiment chart here. We see the VIX is still inside of this, what we call the caution zone here between 20 and 30. Friday it closed at 21.9. So the put call ratio is below this 0.7, this what we call the hedge zone between 0.7 and 1. And it is down at 0.65 area. So definitely the market participants are getting a little bit more bullish here, although they are still a little bit cautious because it is still above the 20 on the VIX. And looking at the up-down volume ratio, although we did not see strong up volume, but nevertheless, it is positive. So while the market was chopping around, even under the FOMC announcement, that sort of thing, it still remain in a positive territory. And also the advanced decline, the daily advanced decline, also show a little bit of a positive market participation. So that's a good thing, although we'd like to see a little bit stronger. On Friday, it's a little bit weak. It's only 379 more advancing stock than declining stock. And also the market on Friday closed almost unchanged. It was little change on the downside. And not much happening on the new high, new low in the New York Stock Exchange also, but it's still the number of stock making new 52-week high outnumber the number of stock of making new 52-week low. Now the thing to take note of is the cumulative AD line. You notice that it has continued to climb up while the S&P 500 is still below this pivot level, somewhere around near this 5,800 level there. So we are seeing a continuation of this positive divergence, and that is a good thing because that will sort of tell us look for the S&P 500 to come up to resolve this positive divergence. And we're going to discuss more about the price action for the S&P 500 later on in this video. And here looking at the Nasdaq on Friday, we actually saw a little bit more negative or more declining stock than advancing stock. And the Nasdaq did close almost unchanged, down a couple points, and which is nothing. So it's basically it's almost unchanged there. We did see a little bit bought participation on Thursday, and the up-down volume ratio, similarly to the New York Stock Exchange, pretty subdued, but nevertheless it is positive. Now for the new high, new low in the Nasdaq market, it's a little bit negative on Friday. There were 101 stock make new 52-week low versus 83 stock make new 52-week high. And the cumulative AD line in the Nasdaq market is pretty much holding steady. We did not see any sort of a divergence here. So unlike the New York Stock Exchange that we're seeing a positive divergence. So overall, the sentiment and the internal are telling us that the previous week or the week just passed is pretty much neutral. Nothing had changed, not much, So we're basically just waiting for the coming week. And this coming Saturday, China and U.S. is supposed to, start the trade talk in Switzerland. So it would depend what the outcome of that little meeting on Saturday. We most likely will see some volatility this coming Monday or even in the Globex market during Sunday evening. All right, let's take a look at the daily chart for the S&P 500 and see what the price action is telling us. Notice that it didn't do much at all. It just finished up near this zone here, near this 5,700 zone right now. So basically in the mid-range of this, weekly range. That was the, the upper range and the lower range of the weekly expected move. So right now, the market is pricing in pretty much the similar type of a level here from the week just passed. And here's what the market is pricing in. It is pricing in a 58.10 and 57.87 for the upper range, and 55.32.80 and 54.95 for the lower range. So it's not much different, just a little bit nudge, different compared to the previous week. So we're still looking at this 5,800 zone here on the upside. So right now we see that, finished with a little bit of an inside bar here on Friday. So we want to watch to see how we're going to break this, inside bar. Would it break above? So essentially what we are looking at, if it could move about the 5,700, then we'd be looking at this 5,800 level. Now, if we could take out this 5,800 level and continue to move up, then there's a possibility that we could see this 5,900 area. If it is unable to move above the 5,700 level, then we are looking for it to pull back and come back down to this 5,500 level once again, and essentially come down to this pivot high here to test for support and see would it be able to provide some support and bounce back up. If it doesn't, then we're basically looking at the 5,400 level as a possibility, and there's a gap here waiting to be filled. And looking at the E-mini, the E-mini S&P 500 future is pretty much the same. Basically finishing a little bit of a mid-range between the weekly range here. And right now, we're still looking for that possibility to come up and take out this pivot high and basically, up at this zone here. And here's what the market is pricing in for the coming week. For the upper range is 58.25, 5806.25, and the lower range is between 5550.75 and 5510. So once again, it is targeting this 5800 zone. So again, we're basically looking to see would it be able to hold above this 5600 zone here. And if it could, then we'd be looking for a move up to this 5800 and toward this, pivot high here. And if we could break this pivot high, then we'll be looking at the 5900 zone, similarly to the S&P 500 cash index. Now, if it is unable to get and stay above this 5600 area, then we'll be looking for this thing to come back down to this 5500 zone. And that's basically we're going to be looking at this pivot high here to see would it be able to provide some support. And if it doesn't, then we'll be looking for this thing to come down and possibly fill this gap below the 5400 zone. And for the SPY is also finished the week right at this zone here near the 565 area. So right now we again looking to see would it be able to come up and take out this pivot or come down and fill this gap here. And here's what the market is pricing in for the coming week. The upper range is between 579.50 and 577.20, and the lower range is between 551.50 and 548. So once again, it is targeting this 580 zone here, this pivot high on the upside, and the possibility of coming back down and test this pivot high here for support on the downside. So if it could stay above this 565 here, this zone, and get about 570, then we'd be looking for the possibility to come up and take out this high and move up to this 580 level. And if it could continue to push higher, then we'd be looking at that possibility coming up near this 590 area. But if it is unable to hold 560, then we'd be looking at the possibility of coming down to this 550 area, basically testing out this pivot high and see would it provide support. If it doesn't, then we're looking for a move to come down to 540 and possibility coming down to fill this gap. And here looking at the NQ, the E-mini Nasdaq 100 future here, see that it finished at this price zone here near the 20,000, just slightly above the 20,000. So we need to get above this 20,400 and take out this pivot high. So right now it is basically finished in the mid of this weekly range here. So here's what the coming week the market is pricing in. So the market is pricing in once again somewhere around this 20,600 and 20,700 area. So basically up at this area 20,800. The upper range is between 20,775, 20,664, and the lower range is 19,595.50 and 19,425. So we'll be watching to see would it be able to get above this 20,400 and essentially take out this pivot high. Then if it does, then we'll be looking at the possibility of moving up toward this 20,800. But if it's unable to get above that 20,400 and come back below the 20,000, then we be watching for the possibility of moving back down to this 19,500 area and take out this pivot low or test this pivot. Test this pivot high and see would it be able to find some support and push it back. If it doesn't, then we're basically looking at the possibility of moving down toward this 18,400, filling this gap. There could be a little bit of a bounce here, somewhere between this, in this 19,000 area. And finally, looking at the QQQ, the ETF for the Nasdaq 100, we see it also finished in the middle of the range here, in the middle of the range, and still waiting for it to come up, take out this pivot high here. And so right now, we're basically looking at the market pricing in these following ranges for the coming week. For the upper range, the market is pricing in between 504 and 501.20. And for the lower ranges, between 474.80 and 471. So basically, looking for the QQQ to come up, take out this high here, and that would be somewhere around 495 area here. So if we could get above 495, then we basically are looking at the possibility of moving up to this range, 504 and 501, and see would it be able to push through this range and come up to this area near 510. Now, if it is unable to get up to this 595 and dip below 495 and dip below and under 480, then we'd be looking for the QQQ to make its way back down to this 470 area and test this pivot high for potential support and see would it be able to get a bounce back up. If it is unable to get support here, then we'll be looking for the possibility of moving down to this 450 area and fill this gap here. So those are the price action for the SPY, QQQ, ES, and NQ, along with the SP 500 cash index. If you want to see additional content from me, be sure to go visit my newsletter, The Pulse of the Market, at substack.com. I have the link in the description below. The link is smtraderCA.substack.com. And also, if you find this video to be informative and useful, be sure to smash a thumbs up to help me promote this video. And also, if you are new to this channel, click on the subscribe to subscribe to this channel, and also subscribe to my newsletter for those additional content. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your trading.